Good afternoon, everyone. I am going to call to order the WeGo Nashville MTA board meeting to order. And first on the agenda, if I can have approval of December 13, 2018 minutes.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? There being none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
The motion carries. We have approval of minutes for December 13th. Next on the agenda are public comments, and I have several public comments. And if we all recall, for those who have not been here, we have a 3-minute limit on our public comments. If I would try to give you a signal of some sort when you're down to 1 minute remaining. So let's see. Patrick Green. I'll put on my little timer. Hello, Mr. Green. How are you today?
Oh, hello.
Happy New Year. Is January still?
Yes.
Still, I tell you, it just seems like the days are going by so incredibly fast, but it is still January.
It is, and I'm thankful for being called first because I do have to go.
Now looky there,
Yes,
Don't you
yes.
want to stay for all of the fun?
No, I don't.
Ah.
I wish I could, but it can be painful at times in here. Yes. So just a quick observation. I'm impressed with how much joy we seem to have here when we're spending millions of dollars. And it's concerning to me because we as ATU, with this transit system, we are at impasse, right? And so what that means for us is that we understand we're in difficult financial times. We won't deny that. But when you offer us a pay raise that doesn't even cover the cost of the increase in insurance that you're giving us, then that means essentially you're taking money out of our pocket. And I don't think anybody out there will allow that to take place. When we move money around, we spend millions of dollars on properties, somebody please take some leadership. It is highly inappropriate to ask the members that work for this system to take the first 2 checks out of the new year to cover the cost of health insurance increases. This is no secret to us. This is no secret to you. And so here's what we ask. We ask that everyone here take a look. We understand the limitations of the board, but we have a CEO here. We have several department heads here. Again, we are at impasse. I think we're at limited points where we're talking, and we will let the chips fall where they may. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Mr. Knight. Happy New Year, Mr. Knight.
Happy New Year, good afternoon to everybody. I want to start by saying, like, it seems like every time I come to this board meeting, I'm probably going to have an issue getting home on my lovely Route 76. There seems to be a lot of issues with the route. I know that they're working to try to correct some of these things. I've been contacted by Supervisor 30 within the last 3 weeks after I've been complaining about this since 2014. So I think that's a little bit interesting. At the same time, I would like to say y'all gonna have to convince your staff to stop buying buses from Gilly. I came here on 1828. I reported that bus the day of Halloween last year. There was some issues with that bus. There was a burning smell, and the bus kept shutting off while it was in service on Halloween of last year. And today, there's some retarded, awkward sound, and it was just me, a bus driver, and the bus driver on the bus when it started happening. So he's looking at me in the mirror, and I'm looking at him, and we're trying to figure out, okay, like, where is this sound coming from? It was pretty much coming from the back of the bus, a brand new bus at that. Then there's 1809 that I've seen standing outside talking on my phone. The display signs don't even work on it. So this is even another critical issue where to me, I feel like you should get to around that 4 to 5 year time frame that display signs stop working. That's letting me know that all of my emails, all of my conversations coming to these board meetings and even contacting staff, nobody seems to be getting it. Hello, your maintenance staff literally has to work on the buses. I've had instances where I emailed Carolyn and the maintenance director, Mr. Dooley, about asking them to fix whatever bus. They were nice enough to go to those staff members that he has and say, we need you to pull this bus and fix it. Well, there are times that they'll tell them they fixed the bus. I'll end up being back on the bus and it was never fixed. There are buses that are admired that half the time do not even get cleaned. So Supervisor 30 has to come out there almost every week or so to make sure that the buses are getting cleaned and that we're getting what we need on that MIA end because they're not doing what they need to do. As far as the battery situation with these buses, I feel y'all should reject that to a degree. Do not do the full 21 buses because I have a list that I'm going to give to you all where I wrote some things down about the hybrid buses that we have. The ones from 2009, there were 6 of them. There's actually only 5 now. They are going out of service very shortly. And then there are a few other buses that will be going out of service around 2021 and 2022. So I feel like that's going to be a waste of money to even incorporate that in there. The last thing that I'll say about that is they neglected to tell y'all about the other hybrid buses that we got around the 2012-2013 timeframe, which those are the ones that will actually need the battery replacement or whatever done to them. The purpose is, why waste money to replace a battery when the buses are not being fixed in the first place? So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Knight. I'll make copies for everybody.
You can keep that.
Oh, you want them all to have copies though, correct?
Yes.
Okay, I'll make certain I make copies and give them to them. Ms. Hanson, how are you today?
I'm fine. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you as well.
Hello.
Hello.
Okay, I've got a few things here. Number one, there is a noise that the fare boxes make when people's cards don't work right that pierces into my brain. It is so loud and shrill. I'd hate to be the bus driver having to listen to that all day. Is there any way that sound can either be changed or the volume lowered? Number two, I've been mentioning this since I started coming here, the Nolensville Road, Ocala, or the stop where the Dollar General is. I'm just going to rephrase my question. When are they going to make that stop wheelchair accessible? Another thing is the nicely painted slick floors out here at MCC are slick in the rain. My feet came out from under me yesterday and I landed on my elbow. Had to pick myself back up, missed my bus because of it, so then I started to go to use the restroom, and when I was on my way to the elevator, it was wet and my feet did a little ice skating dance and I almost fell again. So, slippery when wet. Is there any way? I know that they've got like a little texture on it, but apparently it's not doing what it's supposed to do. And it's not my shoes because I got lots of traction on them. So, now, this here is a blind cane. If a bus driver sees somebody with one of these blind canes, don't pass them by. Even if I'm looking at my phone like this, could be I'm checking the bus schedule. And even if somebody doesn't have a blind cane, you know, if they're at a bus stop, just assume that they're waiting for the bus. And if they're not, well, you know, ask. You know, that's what I'm asking of the drivers to do. Because the other day I was waiting to catch the number 60 outside here on the way to work. I was checking the bus schedule. I look up, there goes a 60. Right on by me. Somebody's texting me. But, you know, that's kind of an ADA issue when a bus driver just passes me by because I'm not looking or going like this because I want the bus. If I'm at the stop, I want the bus. So, thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Hanson. Go catch those text messages.
I'm gonna turn the volume down. I thought I did already.
That's okay, you're fine.
Sorry about that.
No, you're okay. Don't worry about it. Appreciate you being here. Mr. O'Connor.
Well, Happy New Year, everybody.
Happy New Year to you as well.
I'm sure you probably hear that several more times today.
But Happy New Year.
Okay, I have a few issues here that I usually bring up when I come, and I thought I heard Steve mention this earlier regarding longer bus hours. So I like to think that hopefully that will be implemented at some point soon. Also, to match the longer bus hours, we also need the longer customer service hours. Again, like I said before, from the time that the first bus leaves MCC to the time that the last bus completes its run. So long as buses are running, people are out there and they will need help for one thing or another. Also, there's a bunch of drivers that I know that they say, well, you need to ask. If you have a problem making that first step to get on the bus, it's a waste of time. It takes too much time to stand there. Can you lower the bus, please? You know, when they should just do that automatically. Okay, some people may not ask and they still have trouble getting up on that first step. Drivers also, and I notice this a lot, drivers don't pay much attention to people who may be trying to get to the bus from the other side of the street. And if the street is busy and the buses have to stop, okay, people are taking chances to get hit by vehicles trying to get to the bus. And before they get to the bus drives off. So, you know, here a person gets hit or almost gets hit or something, trying to catch the bus, and the bus takes off before they get to it. Also, one other thing is, I know I brought this up before, we really need serious police presence, attention to some of the various bus stops, especially the ones at the Nolensville Walmart, on both sides of the road, that, you know, people are hanging out there getting drunk, doing their drugs and everything. They get to be very intimidating to people who are waiting or getting off the bus there. So we really, really seriously need more police presence up there. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Graham.
Good
Happy New
afternoon.
Year. Good
Happy New Year
afternoon.
to y'all on the WeGo board. Repeating an item I expressed in my last visit last year, I am very much enjoying the new color scheme. As I told Mr. Bland, I like the purple and white, so congratulations on that. Also, I am getting reconciled with the new MCC. I complained about it last year because closing it really put a hardship on some of us, and I just didn't see where it was really needed. But I do like the improvements that have been made, like in the restroom area up here. However, there are 2 water fountains downstairs outside the convenience store that haven't been working for a long time. There's 4 up here that work fine. But that means if we're downstairs and we want to get a drink, we've got to come up here to get one. So I really recommend that you get those fixed. Also, earlier, since the new year, but it was earlier this month, I heard a bus driver say that you all were going to gradually eliminate the pocket schedules. Is that true? Or was he just talking? Oh, good. Because some of us do not have smartphones and other electronic devices. We rely on the
formats
schedule.
are being changed with the new branding.
Oh, okay.
That might be what he was talking about.
Oh, okay.
You still don't leave my picture.
Also, one other kudo. I like the new big ads on the wall downstairs. they are much more eye appealing than the former Aunt What's-Her-Name ads were. Now I have a few resolutions I'd like to propose for 2019 for the Nashville MTA or WeGo. First of all, don't purchase any more of these buses that were half or more of the seats face inward toward the aisle, because that's not cost effective. 3 of those inward facing seats take the space of 4 forward facing seats, so it just doesn't make sense. Also, some of the recorded audible messages on the bus need to be updated. The one I'm thinking of particularly is I'm often coming in on Broadway on either 3, 5, or 7, and when it gets to 12th Avenue, all the buses will say approaching, Broadway and 12th Avenue South, but some of them go on to say transfer point for Route 17, 12th Avenue South, and that hasn't been true for a few years now. And even though the 12th Avenue South is having to make the detour right now, it still doesn't stop there. So it's confusing.
Mr. Graham, you could just finish this one because your time's up.
Oh, okay. The other thing is some of the identification things need to be changed on the buses too. 22, some of those buses say Bordeaux, Youngs Lane, Kings Lane, and they don't go anywhere near Youngs Lane.
Well, thank you very much.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Oh, that's great. Thank you. We'll add that to your comment.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate you coming in. Mr. Thomas. Happy New Year, Mr. Thomas.
Happy New Year to y'all too. How y'all doing?
We're good.
All right.
I'm gonna get up there my homeless Christmas trees. I think about 1,000 candy canes on the trees, and by Christmas they're all gone. So candy canes been a big hit this year. I do have about 73 dozen sweet tail cookies at home for sale.
Candy cans may be one of the constants in our life.
On the 26th of November, the 6:48 a.m. bus from the jailhouse. I left my apartment at the time the bus left the jailhouse. It did not arrive. My stop was 7:23. It's like a half an hour, almost 40 minutes later. When I got downtown, I caught the Belmont bus from the station, which left here at 8:15. Driver did not wear his seatbelt at all during the entire run. On December 22nd, the 8:57 bus from the 52B, the Lake Jailhouse at 9:39. Driver got on me about my card saying that I only paid for 1 seat. I'm taking up 2 seats. Last I checked, we're only paying for transportation from point A to point B. We're not paying for a seat. Because handicapped your wheelchairs take it even from 3 to 5 seats. When the bus is completely full, people stand there, aren't sitting down, so they're not paying for a seat either. On the 21st of this month, 52A running a holiday schedule. Supposed to depart from the jailhouse by 7:50, or from the station at 7:55, was stationed here. The driver did not arrive at the bus till 2 minutes after the departure time, which makes him that much more late on his run. Today, I was on the Shelby Street bus, was left here at 10 o'clock. There are 2 strollers in the front section, which is on one newer bus that has side seats. And those strollers are blocking the aisles so much that it's difficult for me and my car to get through. I had to pick my car up over them to get through. And last I checked, the strollers supposed to be broken down when they came on the bus, with the kids out of them. That's all I gotta say.
Good. Thank you, Mr. Thomas. Mr. Dayton.
How you doing?
We're good. How are you, Mr. Dayton? And Happy New Year to you as well.
Thank you. My name is Cedric Dayton. I don't have a fancy proposal or anything, but I represent the Vine Hill community. The bus number 1 from going to 100 Oaks. If you've seen the schedule, it's already funny during the week. And we don't have service on Saturday and Sunday. Now, I got over 100 signatures that I just accumulated from yesterday to today because I didn't know that the meeting was supposed to be here today, so that's all I can get for right now. And I still got people getting signatures. We are actually stranded on Saturday and Sundays because of those services. And you know, us being elderly and disability, that don't mean that we don't have places to go. We need to go to the malls, we need to go maybe a movie, or we got our grandkids or children want to come see us, got nowhere to get to us. We have no way to get to them because no transportation on Saturday and Sunday. I don't know if y'all tried it before, but this is new. If you have tried it before, this is a new way of life down. You know, we want to see our family, we want to go to the mall, we want to do things, and we're unable to do it. And if you could just, I'm not asking, I'm begging for y'all to try to make arrangements for us to have services on Saturday and Sunday. Because if you look at our schedule now on weekdays, it runs so funny, it's pitiful. I mean, you got 4 hours or so where you don't catch a bus over there. And that's hurting us too, because some people gotta go to work. Some people, we gotta live too. Just because we're elderly and disabled doesn't mean we don't have a life. So I'm hoping that y'all would take my consideration with all these signatures and so forth to help us get services, at least on Saturday and Sunday. Even if you don't change the weekdays, try to help us on Saturday and Sunday. It's the number one, $100. I thank y'all.
Thank you very much for coming in.
Oh, one more thing. I was told by y'all own employees that I talked to that I was wasting my time because y'all ain't gonna do nothing. I don't believe that. So I'm here.
Thank you. I appreciate you coming out. Those are all of the public comments requests that I have. Are there any others that I do not have and somebody wishes to?
I'm Scott David Schoenfeld. I agree with those four. I've got something that I want to give back to Nashville MTA. I'm gonna. I let somebody pass this around. This is my artwork, storyboard artwork.
I'm sorry, so tell me your last name again.
Scott David Schoenfeld.
Okay, Mr. Schoenfeld, right?
Yes, please.
Okay.
I'm originally from Salt Lake City, Utah, and I experienced a number of, whether it was a federal, state, or right-to-work state, no matter how strict it was. Personally, I agree with these people here. We need more tax money, around slightly over 2.00% for better Nashville MTA WeGo transportation, better bus service, better more connectors, whatever you call it, better rules to implement, like putting the ladies first, the single mamas, the elderly, the handicapped. We need more signs, all those signs, because I have not seen it on the WeGo transportation. According to the federal guidelines, it's not so much what to do with the ADA Act, it's so much federal. Since, like I'm saying out in the American West, you put the ladies, the single moms, the elderly, the handicapped first. I'd be ordered to go back to the back of the bus, and if I did, I would be kicked off. Or if there was a certain transit officer, police officer, they would give me a verbal warning, okay? And then if I backtalk them or show them some disrespectfulness, I would get a ticket and a certain amount of fine, and I'd have to pay that in 30 days and go to small claims court, if not do jail time, whether it was federal or right to work, okay? And personally, we need to remove a lot of security guards and supervisors like Mr. Ponch, the things he doesn't know it all, and discriminates against my Western way of life with transit companies, whether it was Colorado Regional Transit, Utah Right to Work, Utah Transit Authority, or Phoenix Right to Work, where Valley Metro. We need those signs there. We need to inform the public that the elderly, the single mamas, the ladies, and the handicapped come first. Or I would be put off the bus. And I think we need, those maintenance workers deserve a lot of credit for the maintenance they do, because they go through a lot. And I was disciplined to do snow shovel removal. And if I want to give back We need to stop making excuses to be brothers and sisters. And if I want to sit down and see the weather channel, and somebody said, oh, security guard, 40 minutes is plenty of, without all the nonsense, where we need to go, because sometimes we get caught up in our lives like we need to, and we plan at the last minute. We need to quit bullying each other around just because they're from other parts of the culture, whether it's American West, East, South, Midwest, or the North. We need to come together as brothers and sisters, and we need to get this Nashville MTA federal. I mean federal. If it could be done the 11 American Western states, you'd have project management money to help better costs of transportation, reinforce the rules the right way. And I mean that, because I'm used to federal, whether it's right to work or federal.
Mr. Schoenfeld, your time has
Yes.
concluded, but we thank you very much, and thank you for sharing your art with us as well. Thank you very much. Is there anyone else who has a public comment that has not filled out a form? And if you could also fill out a form, and I think someone can help you with that.
I can do it online.
Okay.
Sure. Thank you.
We got any other public comments? I want to make certain I don't exclude anyone. In light of that, we'll move on to the next part of our agenda item. And Mr. Searcy, you were on, and you were on, and you were on, and you were on. You have several things, so let's go from there.
Well, the first on the list is the Nashville Facility Renovation Construction Contract Amendment. We heard from staff, had a reasonable explanation of the request. It is a recommendation of the committee, therefore, to approve its request. That is adding $379,590 to the current project total of $2,982,224 for a project total not to exceed $3.361 million.
And just to be clear, this is an increase from what we had previously approved after there was some consideration to make certain that we were well above the floodplain.
Exactamente.
And because we went through that process, some prices went up, and so we had a higher price. So based upon it being a committee recommendation, is there any further discussion? No further discussion. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Motion carries. Nestor Street, improvements on the way.
Next action item is Construction Management Services Award to CDM Smith for that renovation that we just discussed. The funding sources will include the Clement Land Port sale proceeds, supplemented by 5339 and 5307 funds. Excuse me. The Operation and Finance group recommends that the task order value be increased by $295,534 for a total project cap of $365,967. After discussion, it was approved by the committee. It is now recommended to the board.
To be in the recommendation of committee, is there any further discussion? If there being no further discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
All right. Our third item is central signage and wayfinding.
I'm excited about
Are you?
that. Yes, I am.
You want to go ahead and?
No, I'm gonna let you go with it. You go. I just want to say I'm excited about
I
it.
just want to ruin your joy.
No, no. I'm just enjoying hearing you.
The Operations and Finance Committee recommends that Steve Bland have the authority to amend the Batten and Shaw construction contract for additional services to provide and install signage and wayfinding improvements for a base amount of $741,784. The inclusion of these additional services will maintain the previously authorized project budget of $6.269 million.
That being the recommendation of
That being the recommendation of our committee, we now send it to the full board.
Any further discussion? Nope. No further, being a recommendation committee, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries, wayfinding.
Fourth item, the Nolensville Pike Stop Improvement Design Task Order. The staff explained to us the how this enhances or adds to the CDM Smith Award that was approved a year before last. Matter of fact, almost 2 years ago now, in March. And the staff requested that Mr. Bland be allowed to increase the CDM Smith Nolensville Pike Improvement Design Task Order by the value of $168,300, not to exceed the value of the project total of $466,000. This is a result of changes in surveying and bid services for 22 stops, totaling $297,700. The funds for these renovations will primarily be from the proceeds of the Plymouth Landport and supplemented by 5339 and 5307 funds that have state and local match. With that, the committee recommends that the board approve its recommendation.
Any further discussion?
Steve, does this include the stop that this Hansford refers to on Nolensville Road?
I'll need to confirm that. We can have people shaking their head no. So it may not reach the boarding point, but we can look into it,
I
report
don't think
that.
it went as far as where she's talking about. Then it stops before.
It's one of the main stops.
See if, what would that entail?
Sure. Absolutely.
Any
All
other
right.
discussion?
Excuse me. Sorry. Yes.
Any more discussion?
No.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, fifth item, contract with TDOT to mitigate costs associated with maintaining service during the I-440 construction. Let the record reflect that I was a plaintiff in the lawsuit to not build I-440. That's a long time ago too.
Sounds like Janet might be in the lawsuit, not to.
That's right. That's right. That's right, Jan. We'll tell you all about it.
I'm just in a lawsuit against bad reps, brother.
Yeah, we know about that one. Operation and Finance recommends to the board the ratification of the contract executed with TDOT through which TDOT will pay MTA $525,000 beginning, at least up to that, beginning February 11, 2019 and ending December 31, 2020 in order to mitigate the impacts of the construction. The real good news about this proposition is that they're paying us the entire amount on the front end. Is that correct?
No, it'll be a
Not
reimbursement
okay.
contract, and we'll
I
have to
got
track
you.
those
All right.
expenses.
Okay, well, but the approval is.
Right now, they are better payers than the federal government.
Yeah. Well, that's, yeah. Yeah, exactly. That's not a hell of a commendation. But we hear you, and we therefore recommend the ratification of this contract, since it was entered into actually prior to board determination. So we now offer that through this committee recommendation to the board.
Any further discussion? I just want to say that I appreciate Steve's foresight in seeing this and being able to execute on this to make certain that the contract was entered into in a way that it can be managed in a better way and in the best interest of WeGo. So thank you, Steve, on that. With it being no further discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. We have a ratification. Thank you.
Okay. Item 6, the award of the purchase contract for battery and hybrid power management system repair. All right, we had significant discussion regarding this. Oh, I'm sorry. This is the NICE committee's.
No, this is yours.
Oh, okay, very good. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Well, for the piece that I have, and I am
Turn the page.
attempting to flesh it out.
Just the next page. Turn it over. There you are. It should
I
say
see.
your
It
committee.
should say my committee. Thank you.
That's for special.
All right, that's what threw me off. We recommend to the board the award of a purchase contract, right, to Clark Power Systems in an amount not to exceed $1.933 million for the acquisition of parts and materials for the refreshing of 21 hybrid battery power systems. This award should be contingent upon the approval of related action attending to the capital improvement plan, which is the NICE committee's portion. So, contingent upon that approval, the board, that is the Operations and Finance Committee, recommends this award to the board.
And I will say about this one as well, that they did send it out for RFP, a competitive RFP, and only came back with a recommendation from Clark Power Systems. And the good part about it is that Clark Power Systems is here in Antioch, which also makes it a lot more desirable for the work that needs to be done. So appreciate that was shared with us as well. Any further discussion? There being any discussion on those, this is a recommendation of the committee. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Very good.
Very good.
I think
Quite
that
well.
that completes the work of the Operations and Finance Committee for this January meeting.
Well, thank you very much. That was a very good comprehensive report with lots going on. And how about I turn to you, Marlo?
Okay, so the New Initiatives and Community Engagement Committee had our subcommittee prior to this. We had 2 discussions. First up, Felix presented the Transit Facility Design Guidelines, which is an effort to get best practices and good standards and structure around facility design guidelines moving to the future, so that it's not haphazard and gets best practices incorporated. So that was very well received, and I'm sure we'll hear more about that, so thank you, Felix. We also had our first of what I'm sure will be several discussions about the 2020 operating budget, and the overall gist is we're going to continue to present the budget in a 2-part form. That's sort of the as-is budget, and then a added service or added request budget. So we agreed on that, and we also agreed that just because we know it's a tight year in Metro budget is not going to keep us from asking for things that will help improve WeGo service, because we owe that to our ridership. So that was the gist of that. We have one action item which is related to the replacement of the hybrid battery power sources, and because that was an unanticipated expense to buy these 21 new batteries, the staff did a really great job of moving the Rubik's Cube around and finding the resources to fund the battery packs, which is a must-have because we can't have 21 buses going out of service because of bad batteries. So they have presented a pretty innovative solution which will amend our capital improvement plan, and essentially it's moving some funds around the Nolensville Road bus stop improvement, which is using new grants and new funds, so no deferral. It's just kind of moving some chairs around, and then deferring 2 expenditures that were in this year's budget, One is $300,000, which is a one-year deferral of a project we had on slate to work on the paratransit scheduling and dispatch software. So the idea is to defer that 1 year. It's not, our system is not failing right now, so this isn't mission critical. We just would like to get a best practice in place. So the plan is to push that out for $300,000, 1 more year. And then another piece of software that was budgeted for this year, that was the business intelligence software. And you hate to defer business intelligence, but on occasion.
I knew I'd have trouble with you on that.
I know, you knew you would. But again, it is a great thing to have kind of project, but it is not something that's going to impact our service to customers. So that was a recommendation that we move those items around and do those 2 deferrals in the amount of $2,050,000, is that right? $2,050,000. So we had discussion about it. We discussed whether those were really mission critical. Everybody feels not great, but fine about those deferrals. So it's the recommendation of the committee to the board that we approve this amendment so that we can proceed with the battery replacement project. All right, is that right? Okay, that's what I know.
That's it.
Good job. Thank you. Is there any further discussion? And with that being a recommendation of the committee, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It's nice to sort of know we'll get those buses all together. I have a very short report for Chair's report. First of all, thank the staff today for your report. And I do notice that reporting is changing a little bit, and I really appreciate sort of the flow of sort of how they're coming in really well. So thank you very much. I just want to thank the community as well for bringing the public comments. They always are helpful, and I think you are out there and you help our staff and you help us to be better. So we do appreciate your comments. I speak to the community report card that just came out, and I do appreciate all the efforts of the citizens. I think it was the citizens report card. I'm sorry, I misspoke. And I appreciate the comments when they. I appreciate that it was positive. I appreciate that those are things that we too want to work on, and I look forward to continued partnerships between that group and WeGo Transit. It's just very helpful to be able to work very closely with our riders and be able to understand what their needs are up front. So I really appreciate that, and I appreciate that report. Thank you very much. I just want to echo Ms. Miller, your comments about the budget. I do think that it's really critically important that we have these really big discussions to be able to make certain, and I do agree that we just need to push forward about what's really important, and it dovetails into what we hear from our riders and what's important for our riders and what's important for our city to keep pushing forward as it relates to having great transit in Nashville. And the referendum shall not stop us. It will just sort of motivate us to push a little harder, push a little faster, and keep these things going and be respectful of the process that we did. The in-motion process was an incredible effort on behalf of our community, our citizens, our riders, and the experts in this room and elsewhere in transit. So I'm excited about these kind of conversations for us to just push forward. So again, I just want to always say thank you all for the work that you do for WeGo Transit, and it's making a difference every single day in the lives of so many other people. So I appreciate you all, and I will turn this to you, Steve, for your CEO report.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I know we had a pretty busy agenda, so I'll try to keep it brief. A couple items of interest. First, we met with leadership of Vanderbilt University, Metro Planning, Metro Public Works.
There's nice people over there, aren't there?
A few that are a little sketchy.
I know.
Yeah.
And the focus was Vanderbilt's going through a campus master planning process, doing extensive renovations over the next few years. So kind of to the point of Felix's presentation, they're being very aggressive about incorporating us planning public works up front and a lot of the infrastructure improvements. So a particular point of focus was how they're changing campus appearance on both the west end and the 21st Avenue side, how we can better integrate stops and shelters into those designs. So Felix has already taken hold. I'm very encouraged by that. Continued to advance the development of our North Nashville Neighborhood Transit Center in the vicinity of Clarksville Pike, 25th, 26th. We continue to have good discussions with the developer up there, DJ Woodson. We also had a very productive meeting with the Reader Center to kind of help us with community engagement and potentially long-term programming of the site. So that continues to move at a, I'll call it a deliberate pace, but a steady pace. With respect to the fare collection system, when you were worried I might not get to it, but I'm sure we will follow it up. So all of our cash collection equipment has been installed and is operational on the buses, although apparently we have to work a little bit on the tone of the negative card reads. So Dan, if you're in the back of the room, if you would take note of that. The smart card mobile payment system is in design and will be in design through the spring. We'll expect installation to start on that in late summer. So we're probably looking at doing beta tests with user groups into the fall, and then wrapping that project up probably first quarter, toward the end of first quarter of 2020. So it continues to be on schedule. You know, again, alluding to what Janet spoke of in deferring a couple of the other software projects. Frankly, we don't want to dilute the effort that our staff and some of our other support have on that project, because that is a mission critical effort. Earlier this week, Mr. Cersey and I had the opportunity to have lunch with the relatively new chair, I can't call him the new chair anymore, of our Access Ride Passengers Advisory Committee. And that was a very productive meeting in the specific topic, and Walt, I certainly encourage you to weigh in. Was how
sandwich was pretty good.
Hey, your sandwiches look better than mine. Basically, how can we enhance the relationship between APAC and the MTA board in terms of giving formal guidance on accessibility issues, and also broadening the accessibility agenda beyond just the access ride into broader issues of community mobility. So stay tuned for more on that. Yesterday, I had the opportunity, I was invited to participate, as I think most of you know, Metro Council has created a study panel on the use of tax increment financing related to TOD. So yesterday, I was invited along with Council Lady Nancy Van Rees and DJ Woodson, the developer, to do a session specifically on transit-oriented development, and what it was. So really appreciate the volunteers on that task force to take a very deep look. They're going into a lot of detail. So that was very interesting, very informative, and we appreciated the opportunity to be there. Gail, yes, it was recorded for Metro 3, and I did wear my other purple tie.
Your purple tie, that's right.
So I did.
It's the only reason you could go do the purple.
And then we've touched on it, but Ed and Shelley and our finance staff are working on contingency plans if the federal shutdown, because we aren't able to access and open new grants during the federal shutdown. So again, fortunately for MTA, I often say this when Gail and I get together: is this is not a your problem, this is a my problem, and it's an RTA issue. But their cash will be much tighter than MTA's with respect to federal funds. So I'm sure Ed and Shelley are even more motivated to address the issue from that standpoint.
I mean, is there a chance that service gets shut down?
Well, that would be the
last.
By the time that happens, I hope none of you have flights, because it might be a 7-hour wait to get through security. Clearly, that's a last resort. But frankly, we're weighing time frames, and when is cash needed, what alternative lines are available,
The real query is, does any of that impact the funds that they owe us?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. We can't draw and we can't access new money. So the longer it goes, well, we're used to long lead times on grants. I mean, that's sort of the normal. But when Billy and her group do their work to get through that long lead time, and now you still can't access it, we're very heavily reliant on those funds. Finally, also relative, I always try to update you on issues of interest with the Regional Transportation Authority. It's seemingly our perpetual state legislative oversight process. Several of us, including Chair Hutto, Mayor Kirkman from Westmoreland, appeared before the Joint Government Operations Committee of the legislature back in December. I guess it was December. to update them on progress on the last performance audit. That went smoothly, no issues. And literally the next week, we got notified by the comptroller's office, it's time for our next performance audit. So Poor Ed is in perpetual audit mode at the moment, and that will continue. We're continuing to work with HDR engineers on a feasibility study of ranges of improvements to the Music City Star. That should go through a good part of this year. We'll wrap up toward the end. When that happens, we'll make sure this board's up to date on what's going on. And positive that will also, I think, have an impact for MTA services. Really with Julie's leadership and thanks to cooperation from the folks of the multimodal division of TDOT, they brokered a meeting of TDOT folks, State General Services folks, to help us try to identify potential park and ride sites looking at state-owned property throughout really the 10-county region, but certainly including Davidson County. So we're hopeful that we might have some good sites pop up, and there was a very positive environment in the meeting, both for TDOT and for Department of General Services. And many of the folks in that room actually use our service, so they definitely understand the value of a good place to park. So, Madam Chair, unless there are any questions, that concludes my report.
Any questions?
I think there's a herd of horses upstairs.
Yeah, behind us, and behind us.
Just wondering who that might be upstairs. I don't have anything further. Anybody else have any other business? With that being said, then we are adjourned. Thank you all very much.